Welcome to Mental Reset, real talk and real tools for men's mental health.
My name's Ryan, former Deputy Manager of the NHS 111 service. I became a mental health first aider and then became a trainer for that, and I've taught mental health support and worked in mental health services for the last decade. But the thing that qualifies me the most is my own lived experience, and that's what makes us all experts in the world of mental health already, because we've lived. Life's happened at us, for us, against us, and we want to share those tools to help men navigate life and mental health a little bit more easily.
The idea of the show is to have some real, honest and open conversations around men's mental health. Being friends with Ryan, we have some really good discussions, and we want to bring that to the table and share the tools and the ideas that we have that helps us navigate through what can be a difficult life. And today we're going to be looking at the positive side of mental health.
Yeah, because often if you say mental health out there, people gravitate towards the negative, right? You say mental health, people go suicide, depression, anxiety, but it's a neutral term. Like if I said physical health to you, you wouldn't go broken leg, bad back, diabetes. You'd talk about things like, am I drinking my water? Am I sleeping right for me? So we want to recognise that mental health can be mental illness at one end of the scale. I'm amazing, I'm great at the other end, and all the individual person-centred spaces in between. So day in, day out, what do you do to protect and improve your mental health? Say you've had a bad day, say you're going a little bit off, what do you do to rebalance?
I think the key thing is, before you can do that, is getting to know who you are and how your body works on a quite an intimate level. I think once you manage to do that, you're then able to direct and sort of apply the right tool for the right situation. So I'll use an example. Traditionally, I suffer with anxiety and overwhelm. And for years and years that went unchecked and unmanaged. I didn't really have any tools to use when I did feel that way. In the last couple of years, I've found, sort of exploring the wellbeing and wellness space. I've found breathwork. And breathwork for me is one of the best things you can do in terms of managing anxiety, overwhelm, and bringing that nervous system down and being able to control your body and regulate your nervous system. Yeah,
we've got more control over that than we've been led to believe. And you've probably heard of Wim Hof, the Iceman. Dutch, lost his partner sadly to suicide, leaving him with 4 children. He wanted to look at all the ways he could heal and grow and recover, and he developed that breathing technique, and he made these really out there claims. He said, when we breathe in certain patterns and cycles, we can control this stuff. And the naysayers, the scientists, they went nah, and they did an experiment, took him into a lab, gave him an injection. It was a variant of the Ebola virus, should have made him quite poorly for a couple of days, had nothing but a mild headache. So they said, you're a freak of nature, you're unique. He said, give me 25 random people across the globe, give me 3 days to teach them how to breathe in this pattern and cycle, and each person had nothing but a mild headache. So he now teaches medical professionals, clinicians, scientists. So that breathology, that power of the breath is huge. What's your favourite breathing pattern, cycle type?
I've tried quite a few. We've got a good friend who is a breathwork coach, and we go to him quite often, don't we, as a pair. For me, I find the breathing methods that work best for me personally are the slow nasal breathing, which is supposed to bring your nervous system down into the parasympathetic state. And for me, that ties into my condition, actually, because I need to manage stress and I need to manage my cortisol levels, because that can affect or that can trigger my autoimmune. So I, quite religiously, I will try and practice breath work on a pretty much daily basis. But the practice of breath work doesn't have to always be, right, I'm setting up a space, I'm dimming the lights, got the candles on, half an hour, breath work where it's actually work involved. You can actually apply it in day-to-day life whilst you're driving or whilst you're at your desk working. I mean, if I get to a point, when I'm working doing my day job, and I feel a little bit anxious and overwhelmed with the tasks at hand, I'll just spend 2 minutes slow breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, or in through the nose, out through the nose, box breathing, and it just it brings me into that calm. And once you're into that calm, I can then process things a lot easier. I can deal with one task at a time and give it my full attention. Whereas when I'm in that state of overwhelm, my mind's going in all directions. My breathing is shallow, and it's through my mouth. I'm not getting the oxygen in that I need. So for me, that slow nasal breathing to bring me down is absolutely crucial. But what about you? I know you do a lot of breath work. Have you got a particular favourite?
I've had to play around with it. I think as men we often dismiss some of these things like meditation, breath work. Like you said, you haven't got to set up a particular space. You can just do it in the moment. Like that box breathing was developed by the Navy SEALs, proven to re-regulate breathing. And that's breathe in for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold, round in a box. But my 4 seconds might be your 6. Your 6 might be someone else's 8. So I've kind of toyed and played around with the different techniques. At the minute, I'm finding that I'll do breath work to enter into a deep sleep, because sleep's always been a bit of sometimes you get good sleep, sometimes you sleep for 8 hours, you wake up exhausted. But when I'm doing my breath work at night to kind of lead me into sleep, and I like the breathing where you do the retention. So that's a breathe out and hold on the outward breath. And I don't know, like you said, something happens. Cortisol's lower, adrenaline's lower, and with an anxiety disorder, it's really hard to quiet the mind. You catastrophize, and that noise in your head. Most of the time, if my thoughts were a person, I'd say, well, you go away, give me a bit of break. But when I do breath work and I breathe out and I just stop, it's like I found the off switch for the mind, and I love that little bit of break from that.
That is such an amazing space to be in. When you actually manage to fully switch off your brain just for a short period of time, it just feels incredible, and it's so good for you as well. It's like it's a deep state of rest, isn't it? So it's almost the equivalent to sleeping, where you can completely sit in that stillness. You're completely present in that moment. You're not worried about the future. You're not stressing about what's gone on in the past. You're just there being present. And I remember, for years and years, I've always had such a busy mind. And I was actually with you at the time. We went to a friend of ours, Joe, for Cambo, and during that ceremony we did some breath work and some meditation. And I remember the first lot of meditation, I was laying there, you were next to me, and the whole time I was thinking, I wonder if Ryan is thinking about so-and-so, I wonder if Ryan is able to shut off his mind. And it's just thoughts going everywhere. And then we did a couple of the practices in the Cambo ceremony. We came back to the meditation. And I can remember, I felt like I was swimming through crystal clear water. And that's the first time in my life I feel like my mind has ever been still. And since then, that feels to me like the holy grail. Like any time I sit to do breath work or meditation, I want to get to that stillness, because that is such an important place to be, and to make that time for yourself to get to that place, it's really helpful.
It is, and once your brain knows that exists, I think it's easier to find it. Because I tried meditation ages ago. It's proven over hundreds of years to be good for our mental health. And I tried to meditate. I thought it had to look like this, cross-legged, eyes shut, thinking anything. I was thinking of everything. So I just dismissed it early on. What I didn't appreciate is there's lots of different ways to meditate. And like any activity, sometimes I go to the gym, I'll have a great session. Sometimes I go to the gym and I didn't lift as heavy or run as fast. Like, it takes a little bit of practice and embedding. So there's no one way. And that's the thing with men's mental health and men's tools. What helps me might not work for you. What helps me one day might not work tomorrow. If we can fill our men's mental health toolkit with all the different things we can do to protect and improve it, and when the life happens, when these life events happen and it goes a little bit off and we want to rebalance, I've not just got the few tools, I've got the many, and we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, so you've got to build up an arsenal of tools that you can, whip out when you've got something coming on. So that's where I said at the start, recognising where you are or where you're heading kind of emotionally, and then choosing what tool to use, because something that you might use might not be effective for me, or something I often use might not be effective in that moment. But if I've got a number of tools to choose from, then the chances are I'm going to get the right one, and it's going to help. So, and I think as well, the perception of mental health is, a lot of it is, how do we fix mental health? But I think the prevention of sort of going down a path that might lead to poor mental health is just as important as helping people out with poor mental health. So some of these practices are actually, can be used to prevent, as opposed to, bring you out or fix or cure or,
Yeah, that's it. Proactive rather than reactive. And we tend to be reactive, right? You wait until it feels really bad or off, until you reach out and talk or recognise it. It creeps in through the back door 1% per day until a point when you go, oh no, what's happening? It can be really confusing as well to understand what you're feeling, what's going on, have that awareness. The more we talk about this stuff, the more we raise awareness. This channel's never going to be about good or bad, do or don't. You can still have a couple of beers, but you can meditate. Maybe not at the same time, but these are all different tools for different chapters in your life. And I had to be open to that. Former pro MMA, my tools are always around physically lifting and boxing and fighting and training, and that was it. But they stopped working. They weren't as effective anymore. I need to be open to all these different tools. And with men, vulnerability. That old version of me would have been like, I don't cry. Ridiculous. It's a human way of processing emotion. And like, say you got upset when we were chatting about something now, and we apologise. Oh, sorry for crying. You wouldn't apologise for laughing. Please don't feel like you've got to apologise for crying. Sometimes the tool that's needed is crying, and accepting that's okay. Doesn't mean we've got to go around hugging each other all the time and crying, but being okay with it when necessary in a comfortable space. Absolutely, it's being human.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think sometimes we actually need to feel the full force of our emotions, because that is why they're there. It's an instinct. If we feel sad and want to cry, why is the default for men to not cry? And I think it probably goes back to when we were kids. Like if a child's upset or wants feeding or whatever, a child will cry because that's what it needs. And at some point during life, we're conditioned to suppress that. Like mums and dads, don't cry, just stop crying, stop crying.
Big brave boy.
Yeah, that's it. And then as we turn into adults, we feel sad. We feel upset and we want to release that emotion, and we've been conditioned not to keep it in, to keep it bottled up. And I think that's part of the problem. And I think being able to sit with certain emotions and feel them in the full force, but also not necessarily dwell in that. Use those tools to then put you on that path that will kind of gradually take you out of there and into that positive headspace.
Yeah, maybe that's why men are 3 times as likely to develop substance misuse disorder, escapism, rather than being willing to feel that and conditioned to go, don't cry, keep it in, suppress it. Well, I need to change the way I feel. I've got all this emotion bottled up. Let me have a drink or do this or do that, escape those feelings. And we're supposed to feel everything as human beings, but safely. How would you know peace, happiness and joy if you hadn't felt despair and anxiety on the other side? We tend to want to gravitate towards these great emotions, and then as men the trend can be, I don't want to feel that, I'm going to get on with it, I'm going to bottle it up, I'm going to have a beer, I'm going to escape. But being willing to feel those emotions, recognising those emotions, like we don't have emotional awareness classes at school. I think if I'd have had, we should do. If I'd have had that rather than 6 months of French, my life would have been better. Nothing wrong with France, I'm just not fluent. So like label your feeling, the emotion, the mood, be at peace with it. It's okay to feel it out, to unpack it, unravel it, and then know how to process it and what you want to do with it. And we get some very similar sounding emotions. So for the latter part of last year, as you know, went through a bit of a relationship crisis, breakdown. And for the latter part of the relationship, I felt lonely, but I was never alone. You know, partner, 2 stepkids, 2 dogs. I moved back in with elderly parents at the start of the year. I'm kind of alone, but I never feel lonely. When I was able to sit with that and go, what's going on here? What am I feeling? Let me talk it out. Let me write it down. Let me journal it. Let me get it out of my head, because things get tangled in here. Then it can take away some of that fear of wanting to go into that space. Oh, don't go there.
But you only kind of get to that point by sitting with it, don't you?
Yeah.
If you use distraction or escapism, then you're avoiding dealing with that and identifying why you are feeling that way.
Yeah.
Brian Morrison, who I absolutely love, he talks so well about it, but sitting with the pain. So if you're feeling the pain of something, actually sitting with it and feeling it in its full force, it just helps you process it so much better. So that's a principle that I try and apply sort of in any time I'm feeling pain, I will try not to distract or run away from it. I just want to sit in with it and welcome it, because I know that pain is going to lead to healing and ultimately to growth as well.
Yeah, and that's where breathwork can come in again. It can help you process that emotion. And there's a great book. It's an old book now, but there's so much truth in it. Bessel van der Kolk, Mind and Body in the Transformation of Trauma. And it's how the body holds emotional trauma. And when I'm doing breath work, there's times when my lip will start going, I'll start to get emotional and cry. And I'm like, where did that come from? But it's always a welcomed experience. It's not like I'm fighting it. I feel like I need to let this go. Yeah. Not even really thinking about anything in particular. Something somewhere has been stored. Yeah. And this breath work, this, the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic, the rest and digest, the fight, flight, freeze. There's stuff going on in terms of our physiology, neuroscience, psychology that we can't see on a blood test, X-ray or MRI scan. Something's happening. And when I breathe, sometimes it just comes out. Yeah, it's like you can let it go. And it kind of links into what we were talking about at the start. But the other kind of breath work is the transformational or transformative breath work, where it is the heavy breathing without the rest at the top. And really, real weird stuff can happen with that kind of breath work. Yeah. My experience of it, you feel a bit tingly. It's almost like you kind of get transported to another place, don't you? Yeah. But ultimately, that for me is it is that release of energy and emotion. So that's another way breathwork can help, just to release it all. And these things are free, right? Someone might be watching this going, I don't need you to teach me how to breathe. I've been doing it since I was born. Yeah. I do it in my sleep without thought, but breathing in the right way, the right pattern, the right cycle, like I said, transformative. I've been doing a breathwork session before, and Dan Wellness PT, he's the breathwork coach that I go to, and he filmed it in slow-mo. And when I kind of came round, because you go to a different place, right? You're like, where am I? What's just happened? And he said, at one point, it was like you were electrocuted. There was a jolt in your body, and you just kind of almost like levitated. And I can't recall it, but then we watch it back, you're like, what's going on there? It's powerful stuff.
Yeah, mad stuff can happen. I think my first experience of that breathwork with Dan, I wasn't expecting it. I didn't think I was holding on to too much, but I had felt like such a release of this, felt like negative energy, but I felt good about it because I felt lighter afterwards, but it really felt like a release. And then the next time I went to Dan and did the same kind of breath work, I felt like I was absorbing positive energy. Yeah. It was a completely different experience. I think, the more you do it, you will get different things from it as well.
Yeah, try it out. This is free. There's free resources. There's different types of breath work and patterns, and I know we're talking about energies and frequencies. You can go into the realm of chakras, and I think the trend I've seen is that's when men go, I don't know about that. It's a bit fluffy and woolly and hippie, right? But do you believe in Wi-Fi?
I do.
You do? Show it me. Where is it? And I don't mean show me on your phone, your phone's connected to the Wi-Fi. I mean show me the Wi-Fi. It's an energy. If we can connect to the world through that energy, why not other energies? Why not binaural beats and frequencies and stuff like that? So, everyone's got a different belief around this. try this stuff out, connect to it, work with it, see what happens. It doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you need.
Yeah,
I think breathwork.
And I was totally in that category as well.
I was.
Like, you know, 2 years ago, if you said to me, like, are you a spiritual person? Do you believe in kind of energies, the universe, or whatever? I would have just absolutely laughed at you.
Yeah.
But you know, it's massive part of my healing process, and I'm, you know, really open talking about it because it's something that, you know, I believe.
That's it. It's what it means to you. And if anyone says spirituality, no, I'll say, look, do you think the sun is going to set tonight? And I'll say, yeah. Is it going to come up again tomorrow? Well, we hope so. But yeah, can any human being on the planet influence or stop that? No. There's your start. You know, it's almost nice as well when you creep into spirituality. You know that there's forces in this world far beyond our control. It's almost like the universe has got you. You know,
yeah, right? That's it, and I think that's a big part of it as well. It's the whole thing about control. If you know there is, like, you know, if you surrender to it's like surrender to the universe, I say, or if you kind of let go of control and think actually everything's already laid out, whatever happens is going to happen for a reason, then that is actually really helpful, because when you let go of control, that will help with anxiety and overwhelm, because there's less things to be anxious and overwhelmed about. So yeah, and it's spirituality is really, you know, intrinsically locked in with mental health and prevention of poor mental health as well. I believe
that's it. Release control, fall back, trust the universe. And that doesn't mean we now have to stop having a beer. Like, I can still have a beer and do some of this stuff. I can still go and hit the bag or go to the gym and do this stuff. It's about that broad range of strategies that we can use to protect and improve. Because as you get older, your life changes. You know, back in the day when I was younger, it was about getting big and lifting weights and fighting, and it got me so far. But those tools weren't effective anymore. They stopped working. I wanted to be open to newer things. Mindfulness, that's a term that everyone's listening to stuff about and hearing about. What's mindfulness?
Mindfulness, it's for me, it's a couple of things. It's being able to sort of be in the present moment and find that kind of stillness. But I think on a bigger picture, I think it's about your place in the world and how you conduct yourself as a good person, giving positivity into the world, into the other people around you. For me, like, it's almost like a way of life. I think, you know, you carry out your business with the best intentions to make the world a better place. Then, you know.
Love that. What's that saying? Plant trees that you know you'll never sit in the shade of. You know, do it now and then later on people benefit. And this thing, there's no right or wrong way to mindfulness. I think it's almost easier to describe the opposite of mindfulness. Have you ever had a journey in your car, and when you get where you're going, you go, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Was I safe? Have you ever ate a meal, and because you're thinking about work, you didn't really even taste it? It's just gone. I've had my dinner, it's gone. We live a lot in our own heads. So mindfulness can be exactly what you just described. It can be being present, conscious and aware, you know, being where your feet are. And there was a man in his late 40s, early 50s, and he said to me, mindfulness is just a fashionable word that's being used. I've been doing mindfulness all my life. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, when I was younger, if on a Saturday the weather was really bad outside, you know, it's hammering it down with rain, he said I wasn't allowed to play football in the street, I couldn't call around with my friends, go out on my bike. He said I'd sitting home on a Saturday, looking out the window, watching the birds in the trees, did some drawing, used my imagination, watched the rain run down the glass. He said mindfulness is just good at being bored.
It is.
No one knows how to be bored anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Second we get bored, Amazon Prime, Netflix, YouTube, phone with 1,000 devices, dopamine, cheap dopamine. Let me not sit with how I feel, because even boredom's a feeling that can be healthy. Because if I hadn't felt boredom, then when I do that thing I enjoy, it means even more. Yeah,
I mean, for me, like, boredom is a really good place, because normally boredom means stillness and peace.
Yeah.
And if you reframe what boredom is to stillness and peace, you'll be far more comfortable sort of in that place.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Only in that peace can you really get to know or get closer to what you're feeling and what you're thinking. So boredom is a healthy feeling, it's a healthy emotion. For anyone that thinks life hasn't sped up, I imagine, well, I know you watch Stop Start TV, right? Netflix, Amazon Prime. Imagine you're into a good season or series. Do you press the skip intro button? Guilty.
Yeah.
I haven't got 10 seconds anymore to make a brew, sit myself, or talk to a friend. Like, the world's done this to us. It's sped up through the back door, 1% per day, and that's all right. We're not demonising technology. I mean, hey, we're on a YouTube channel, right? But if we're aware of it, if we're aware of all this stuff that can positively influence mental health, negatively influence it, and everything in between, then we can apply that in a way that works for ourselves, for our life.
Yeah, I think just going back to the old boy that you're talking about, I think that is a really good example of how, you know, you don't have to completely change your life, but you can bring some of these practices into what you currently do. So, you know, you don't have to have a massive overhaul and, you know, become this big spiritual person. You can still go about your daily business, but it's just bringing little practices in that are going to help you in the long term. Yeah,
that's it. It's not going to be something that you'd necessarily want to use to overhaul your life. I think I'd be very spiritual if I got to live in Bali on my own without kids, the missus, or work. That'd be easy, but that's not our reality. So how can we adopt some of these things to make everyday living for men a bit easier, a bit better? You might hear something on this channel, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. I'll go on YouTube, I'll find a free resource. We'll share links as well of all our favourites, and you try it, and it has a great, profound effect on your life. It makes you live a bit easier, a little bit happier.
And if you try any of these things and you find they are a benefit for you, please feel free to comment as well. You know, that sort of talk of things that do work or have been working is going to really help other people, encourage other people to try it as well. So, you know, we encourage a lot of interaction with this.
100%. I've got my journey, you've got yours. I've met a decade's worth of people who have kindly shared things with me, you know, that place they haven't talked about, that thing they've never shared with anyone. We want to pull together as a community of men and make life as easy as possible, because the odds are stacked against us for men these days. We're being outperformed by women at every stage in the school system. That's United Kingdom and United States. Divorced men have a higher mortality rate than divorced women. Fatherhood isn't viewed the same way as motherhood. So typically, if two people split up, naturally the kids will go with the mum. But if both adults are working now, and men aren't expected to be the breadwinner, the provider, the protector, you know, if we have got this level of equality, and rightfully so, then why have we got these old-fashioned views still that, you know, kids will go with mom, and then, you know, Christmas is coming up, that man that's just split up with his partner, the kids have gone with mom, they're sat on their own, you know, loneliness, that Christmas dinner they're used to having, like these are really important, impactful things. So when we look at the data and the research around this, and we're not talking about data and research, we're talking about men, we're talking about people. The odds are stacked against men.
They are.
And we want to recognise that, be aware of it, create the balance. So if you could please subscribe, like a video. This is passion, it's not profit. We want to put this out there, we want to hear from you and share all the little things we can do to protect and improve mental health as men. And each thing might only help 1%. But when you do enough of them, that's 10%, and that could be the difference between you having a really difficult time of it and actually being able to navigate life and get through.
Yeah, it's small wins, isn't it? Little small wins. And if you know someone that could benefit from this video, please feel free to share it. You know, we just want this to reach as many men as we can who might not have the tools, might not be aware of this stuff.
Exactly, and feel less alone, because you're not alone. We need to be able to pull together. And there's always someone that cares, there's always someone to talk to, but we appreciate as men, that can be hard to start that conversation.